So I know most of you, if not all of you, are well aware of Carlos's exploits in pioneering what we today call cybersecurity. Of course, as one of the creators of one of the initial cryptographic root keys, Carlos has been at the forefront of development, not only in the service offering, but also the application and alliance with other organizations, as we'll be talking more about today with Casper and Parrot. But Carlos has also been a pioneer in the global community, bringing cybersecurity into what was deemed to be an extremely important dialogue at the World Economic Forum. And it was there that the transhuman code had its humble beginnings. For over 15 years, WISeKey has been hosting an annual meeting of the minds at Davos. And Davos, for those of you who have been actively involved, know that it's a tremendous breeding ground. It really is an incubator, not only for the exploration around how we do best with what we have, but what can lie in the future for us. And so, through one of these meeting of the mind assemblies 4 years ago, we began to talk about just the range of thought leaders that collectively we had access to. My initial visit to the World Economic Forum was, and it seems rather silly today, was to talk about how we were going to finance the fourth industrial revolution. As we can all see quite clearly, that's not a problem today. However, how we were going to govern the fourth industrial revolution remains a challenge. And so in that first initial assembly, we began to workshop somewhat subconsciously what has become the transhuman code, which is really the ultimate conversation starter, the dialogue initiator amongst those of us that really have to be those governors. So in the absence of a global governor, the developers, the financiers, even the users, we have to determine how we use technology for more good rather than for more evil. So the result was the introduction of the Transhuman Code book in 2019 at Davos, and quite surprisingly, during our book launch event here in New York in June of that year, we were approached by an individual who asked if he could send 6 copies of our book to the Vatican. So why the Vatican? Well, it appears that while to suggest that our current Pope is a minimalist would be an understatement, he has a strong interest in the impact of technology on people. And to that end, Carlos and I found ourselves gathered together with 60 business leaders, spiritual leaders, and finance leaders discussing this very subject of how do we ensure that we can keep the human at the center of gravity in the relationship with technology. And so we were all surprised, of course, that while during this pandemic period that we're still experiencing, there was as much embrace of the technological innovation that had preceded us. But more importantly, we were seeing such a significant acceleration of the adoption of many of the things that we were forecasting. And so when the Vatican reached back out and said, I think it's time, the border is open, the airplanes are flying, will you please come back? And so we were very thankful to be able to revisit the Vatican just 4 weeks ago and again assemble a group of individuals that we believe can have a significant impact on what's coming forward. And so Gil Amelio, you may know, as one of the former CEOs of Apple, credited with the rescue and returning Steve Jobs to the role that he performed so importantly over the last 10 years of his life. We had investors from across the world, together with developers and applicators of technology, and we found that we are really in the very same position, but more importantly, that the awareness level of how we can band together, how we can collaborate for the advancement of more, better technologies that can increase the contribution that we give and narrow that equality gap that has existed before the advent of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, then we should do so. And so, whilst Carlos and I think, both gave a tremendous amount of credit after our first book to anyone that's attempting to write and or contribute to while maintaining a full-time job, we've committed to our publisher and to CNBC, who was in the midst of shooting what would have been a 12-part series for the Transhuman Code when the world came to an end in March of 2020. We've committed to create, even in fact, a more diversified platform than what we had originally conceived. And so the Code to the Metaverse will be launched on January 19th at Davos of this year. We're excited to have our Chinese publisher together with us. Very early on with the Transhuman Code, there was a commitment from CITIC, China's largest publisher, to buy the rights for the Transhuman Code. They delayed beyond our comfort level, given the pandemic. But then, surprising to our agent and all others, they published every word. And if you've read the book yet, you'll know that we're not always so complimentary about some of the developments that have occurred in the market. But they believe that the conversation is important. So much so that we had almost 500,000 people joining us via live stream from China into the Vatican. And whilst it appears that we will not be able to have very many of our Chinese colleagues with us at Davos this year, we're looking forward to continuing that engagement using some of the exciting new technologies that are going to be demonstrated today. And so I think with that, Carlos and Terry, I look to you. Are we ready to make technological innovation history? You're shaking your head. No, not yet.